Hello everyone, welcome back. Today I am reviewing the Black Panther. Now with this video, I want to put all jokes aside, all skits aside, all everything aside, and just review this as a movie, as objectively as I possibly can, because this is one movie that has me very nervous to review. Before this movie came out, the movie was sitting at like a 100% on Rotten Tomatoes, and then a couple reviews came out of people that didn't like the movie and dropped it below the coveted 100%. And those reviews went trending on Twitter, literally being torn apart by rabid people that diagnose these reviewers as racists or whatever, what have you. And that is what has sort of made me nervous to both review and see this movie, because if I don't like it, then I'm automatically racist, apparently.
What drives me crazy about this Black Panther movie is people getting upset about this Black Panther movie. On both sides. First of all, white people making a big deal are like, oh great, oh it's all black people. Like, what, shouldn't just be all good people? Like, of course this is the way the story was, and this is the way they want to promote it. Why do you care? Like, it doesn't, I don't care. But then it goes the other way, and I do care. Where I've seen crazy liberal psychos, and they were white people in fact, saying white people stay the out of the theater while while Black Panther is out. Don't steal their joy with your white privilege.
But I have decided to check this movie out mainly because I was interested in it.
I have seen gods fly. I've seen men build weapons that I couldn't even imagine. I've seen aliens drop from the sky.
Yeah.
But I have never seen anything like this. How much more are you hiding?
Hold up. Let's go.
Not only does it have a really interesting filmmaker at the helm in Ryan Coogler, who has directed such films as Creed and Fruitvale Station, but it also was written by Ryan Coogler, which was a good sign, and it had a great cast featuring Micheal B Jordan, Chadwick Bosman, Forrest Whitaker, Lupita Nyong'o, and some others that I'm just forgetting. Andy Serkis, of course, being another. And so a lot was riding on this movie for me. This was the kind of movie that I was legitimately interested in. There was some real talent behind this movie. There was some real intrigue to this movie, especially when I heard that Kendrick Lamar was going to be curating a sort of soundtrack or album for this movie. I got legitimately interested into what they were doing. I thought that for once, Marvel was going to take a step back and let a filmmaker make a film. But unfortunately, that is not the case. Not only is this not a very good Marvel movie, but it's just not a very good movie in general. This is the kind of movie that you would describe as a filler movie or an in-between movie, because nothing goes anywhere and nothing is achieved. But before we get into this, let's set the stage a little bit here. So basically, the movie is about Chadwick Boseman's character, T'Challa, the king of a fictitious world called Wakanda in Africa. So this place, Wakanda, is masked by some kind of force field that keeps him closed off from the outside world, and Chadwick Boseman has taken up the throne as king of this place and all the responsibilities therein, which is essentially the plot of this movie. Being that there isn't really one. The biggest downfall to this movie is that there is really nothing that happens and nothing that the movie achieves. Basically, the only thing that comes from this movie is the fact that Wakanda as a country goes public. They let people know that they are going to help out, I guess. And that is quite literally the only thing that this 2-hour-long feature film accomplishes. Not only is this basically a wheel-spinning movie, but there is not really any characters to get invested in either. Chadwick Boseman's character as King of Wakanda has no discernible arc or interesting development. The only thing that he develops is the fact that he wants to be a good king and that he wants to be different than his father, which is a sort of underlying theme of this movie. The big theme of the movie is sort of out with the old, in with the new, let traditions die and bring in a new world, essentially.
Let the past die. Kill it. If you have to. That's the only way to become what you were meant to be.
So the film uses Chadwick Boseman's characters to sort of achieve its thematic goal of out with the old, in with the new, and he is sort of the embodiment of that idea. His whole character is basically just reliving traditions and then deciding that he wants to not live some of those traditions for no real reason other than the fact that he doesn't agree with how his dad dealt with our main villain, Micheal B Jordan.
Don't freeze.
I never freeze.
The revolution will not be televised.
Show me my respect and bow down. We own ya. We own ya. We only getting started now.
So basically, Micheal B Jordan's character is the villain of the film, and he was sort of born as another prince that nobody knew about, and he has come to reclaim the throne that he rightfully deserves. But he's armed with his knowledge of the streets, New York streets, and he wants to reclaim the throne and bring in a new era, an era of aggression and violence. So basically, our main villain's only motivation is the fact that he wants to help black people on the streets kill racist people. And that is the agenda that this movie pushes, which, for lack of a better word, is incredibly hand-fisted and ridiculous. It's clearly a stab at the current political climate, but it does so in an incredibly obvious and obnoxious way. It doesn't ever put this as subtext. It's literally just text. Characters quite literally say, "My ancestors came over in boats and jumped over the side because they didn't want to be held in bonds." That's literally a line of dialogue from this movie. So it's not really being subtle, and that is sort of the biggest detriment to this movie. The script and the way that it executes its vision of this world is incredibly forced, and most of it feels like it's catering or pandering even to 15, 13, 14-year-olds. It doesn't even remotely try to bring in any kind of other demographic because everything else is so spelled out in this movie. If this horrible, ham-fisted political message wasn't enough, every single character here is only used to further the agenda of the film. There are no characters that have legitimate arcs or character traits that define them, that make them interesting. Every single character is just a plot device for the movie to use when it is convenient for the movie. Literally, for the first hour and a half or so of this movie, there is no story taking place. So we get a couple of action scenes and a couple of stupid talky scenes and exposition scenes, and in the end, it's boring, which is the biggest, most egregious problem with this movie. It's boring. Even the action sequences in the film are so poorly shot and so poorly, shoddily edited that they're not entertaining to watch because I was frequently just saying, what is happening? I can't tell what the frick is happening. There's literally only one scene in this movie where the action is filmed in a way that makes sense visually, and it's in a bar where the film decides to do this long faux one take, go flowing through the bar as people are beating up each other and getting thrown around, and it's a really great scene. And I really wish that Ryan Coogler would have put in effort in more scenes than just this one and the preceding car chase.
Hey, look at your suit. You've been taking bullets, charging it up with kinetic energy.
Put her around the truck.
Ready, go!
because it really feels like he put in a lot of time, a lot of thought and effort and preparation into this long, elaborate chase scene, and then kind of didn't everywhere else in the movie, because everywhere else is so shoddily put together that it sort of feels like they had no time to make the scene. A lot of the choreography feels underdeveloped, a lot of the cinematography is shaky and illogical, and all of the editing is so fast-paced and quick-cutting that it's really hard to tell what's happening. But if the action is bad, the story is bad, and the characters are bad, then what is there to really like about this movie? And I'll say one thing, it's certainly not the sound design. So what is there really to like? I mean, visually, this movie looks nice. The costumes are great. The production is great. The performances are all pretty great. The cinematography, for the most part, is pretty good, and the visuals look nice. The visual effects look nice. So the movie really only works as a visual movie. There's nothing else to this. The only thing that I can praise about Black Panther is the fact that it looks nice and that it is mostly a movie. Other than that, there is nothing really to like about Black Panther. The story is basically non-existent, and when it is existent in the third act, it's predictable and cliche and bad. The villain here, played by Micheal B Jordan, goes absolutely nowhere, has no character development, and ends in the typical Marvel fashion that is, again, predictable and cliche, and they can't seem to get away from the fact that they are just one-off villains constantly, because that's what happens again here. The story's bad, the characters are bad, it's poorly written, the sound design is really off, and the music is dreadful. The music is so repetitive and loud and obnoxious more times than not. And it frequently has to overcompensate for things that feel unfinished in this movie. So in the end, I would probably give this a 4 or maybe a 5 out of 10. I really don't like it. And I think that this is one movie that you kind of have to review objectively. Again, I'm trying to put aside a lot here. I'm trying to put aside any gripes I have with specific things, personal things. I'm trying to put aside jokes or whatever, because I know how controversial this movie has been. And I just want to say, because of Black Panther, I will not be reviewing any more Marvel movies. I am sick and I am tired of reviewing the same movie over and over and over again. I realize that Marvel is going to be investing in interesting filmmakers and then completely crippling them, making movies like Black Panther that go nowhere, achieve nothing, and act as wheel spinning for this Marvel Cinematic Universe to just collect more money. So I am done.